Hey guys, and welcome to a showdown between two mighty warriors of old. On the left hand side, representing Bretonnia and Clan DBD, we have Consul of Rome up against N Fury and his vampire count Undeadly Legions. Should be an old school match down between good versus evil. I actually played N Fury not too long ago on ladder, and he was a very competent player. And anyone who has had experience on my channel before knows Consul of Rome certainly knows his stuff. Should be a good fun game with some pretty cool units on display, so I'm going to showcase them to start with. And that's going to be the Royal Hippogryph Knights, aka the Flying Tanks. These guys have 90 armor, 90 speed, 46 and 34 melee attack and melee defense, but a whopping 135 weapon strength. They cause terror and have 20% physical resistance. Yeah, these guys can really pack a huge punch, but they are very, very expensive. In the main battle line, we have a ton of peasant mobs dotted all the way along. It isn't really a true Bretonnian force unless you have the filthy, unwashed peasant mobs leading your battle lines. For the main force, we do have men-at-arms dotted all the way throughout, so relatively cheap and cheerful, although in the central pocket we do have the Holy Wardens as well, regiment of renowned battle pilgrims with their flaming swords being led by Felix. What a cinematic shot as he leads his men into battle. In the back lines, we do have some peasant bowmen as well. Looks like they're going to be a mixture of fire arrows, and is there basic ones? Nope, just fire arrows dotted all the way along, and some cavalry. It isn't Bretonnia again without a load of cav. We have ground knights over on one flank in the centre back position. We have the Knights of the Lion-Hearted, regiment of renowned Knights of the Realm, and on the far side, more Grail Knights. Leading the force, of course, is the Fey Enchantress, her and King Leon Leoncoeur, certainly the best picks for Bretonnia throughout, and I think the Fey does edge him out in most matchups. Coming in, of course, with Chalice of Potions and Favour of the Fey, Arcane Conduit, Flesh to Stone, and Earthblood. That's a pretty scary set of spells to bring to the battlefield. Now oppose them for the force of the vampire count in the front lines to match the peasants in just horrific badness and just basically being big meat sacks, is the zombies. Zombies dotted all the way along, again a staple for vampire counts. Main battle line will be a mixture of Graveguard as well as Crypt Ghouls. I like the combination here. Crypt Ghouls certainly will be able to tear through chaff really quickly, and Graveguard with their great weapons will be a little bit more susceptible to range fire, but will be able to bring down enemy cavalry. Necromancer is rolling dirty on his corpse cart alongside the Claw of Nagash, and up in the skies we have some Fellbats, the Devils of Schwarsthafen, pretty decent AP on these flying beasties, coming in as well, causing some pretty nasty terror as well. We have a Blood Dragon Vampire Lord, Helm of Discord, Invocation Heck, Raised Dead, all that good stuff on his mighty mountain. The Undead Dragon does look pretty ferocious, although sitting on top, the Vampire Lords always make me chuckle. He looks so awkward with his two swords sticking up, looks like he's ready for a meal. And somewhere as well, on the far flank, we have the Die Pack and some Blood Knights. Without further ado, let's get this battle underway. And those Royal Hippogryph Knights going to have a little bit of a struggle, I think, up against both the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord as well as the Devils. Now, on the isolated pockets, they're going to do amazing up against either of those, but fighting together with a Helm of Discord could certainly be the end of such flying beauties as the Hippogryph Knights. So, Consul Rome's going to have to keep his micro relatively on point here. Knights of Lion-Hearted floating towards the front of the battle line. You'll often see Bretonnian players do this quite a bit, where they'll cycle charge the enemy front line as hard as possible and just fall back behind the waves of peasants. Well, it looks like for now the Grail Knights as well as the Knights of the Lion High are going to float out to this right-hand side, looking to intercept the Blood Knights if it does indeed come to it. Grail Knights are floating through the trees right now, considering getting in a tussle with the Die Pack before falling back. Now, with the support of Fey Enchantress, maybe it's a good idea. The Grail Knights don't actually do the most damage output, but they are relatively tanky throughout. Royal Hippogryph Knights continue to float up and above the Bretonnian force, trying to drag the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord into the fire of these peasant bowmen. It looks like they are about to unleash a pretty decent amount of shots in. Big breath attack, though, goes down on the Holy Wardens, gobbling up quite a few of them, but now the Royal Hippogryph Knights have engaged in hand-to-hand combat, and they'll be able to do some pretty decent damage. Blood Dragon Vampire Lord taking a chunk out of his health there before having to fall back, tail whipped between his own legs. But now the Fellbats do approach as well as the Devils, and the Fellbats engaging up against these elite units in the sky isn't the worst idea either, because it will keep them busy for a rather long time. Felix has popped just ahead of his own battle line to stare death in the face and taunt it back, and it looks like his battle pilgrims shall be marching to meet his war cries. As more fire does rain in, all focusing down the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord at the moment, which is certainly a solid option. Fellbats have started to dart down onto the peasant bowmen, and up in the skies, the Devils are going to get the charge on the Royal Hippogryph Knights. It looks like they turn and engage back just about in time, an engagement which will certainly favour the elite Bretonnian forces, but in comes the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord. We do have some healing going down, it would seem, as well, on some of these troops in the main battle line. And the poor Claw of Nagash is getting isolated and obliterated. Peasant Bowman focus firing it down. Of course, it's going to suffer quite badly against fire arrows, as the Holy Wardens and Felix will meet to engage it as well. Now, up in the skies, the Royal Hippogryph Knights have been hit by Flesh to Stone, really making them those flying tanks we spoke about earlier. Coming in with 150 armour. Favour of the Fae going down, 86 melee attack. These guys will obliterate anything they touch, but oh no, they are away from combat. They need to engage immediately to try and make as much value as possible. In the main battle line, it's good to see the Holy Wardens in action, but they are getting a little bit beat up by this point. 89 kills, certainly not too shabby. Whipping around those flaming swords, trying to make a Beric Dondarrion and Felix proud, but they kind of actually break his heart by fleeing, and Felix does standeth alone. Then Chargers darts in over onto the Crypt Ghouls and the Devils of Schlosshafen, and Invocation Heck has gone down. Helm of Discord as well, nuking at the stats of the Royal Hippogryph Knights, but their attack is still strong because of the favour of the Fae and the Earthblood going down. And they've given that Blood Dragon Vampire Lord the absolute business. Look at his health just deteriorate. He must be panicking so much. Helm of Discord's down. Why am I losing this? Big Potion does go down on the Grave Guard. Nice pinning manoeuvre by the Ground Knights to keep them in place, and surrounding Felix there, giving him a bit of support. Peasant mobs are going to have to dart back into these, help out the back line a little bit. Ground Knights really want to slam into the Felbats, keep these Peasant Bowmen alive, because they're doing such a good job applying pressure to the aerial core. The Knights of Lionhearted have been forced back by some rather eager Blood Knights. Royal Hippogryph Knights trying to find sanctuary down on the ground. I don't think they're going to get it, because they're surrounded by so many troops that the die pack as well do have anti-large. The Royal Hippogryph Knights are kind of split up at the moment. Felix is here and can support a little bit. Likewise, the Ground Knights are doing a good job slowly beating down at those Grave Guard with great weapons. Peasant mobs combined with the Men-at-Arms slowly getting rid of those Felbats, and it looks like some of the Peasant Bowmen are able to continue to fire. In the distance, though, there's a very healthy unit of Grave Guard who needs to get activated once more. Looks like it won its engagement but decided to not chase off the Men-at-Arms. It needs to come over here and help out in the main fight, because this is a very close battle so far. Balanced power slightly in favour of Bretonnia, but down the Fae Enchantress goes in the central part of the battle. She's still alive, but the Knights of Lionhearted have charged in a desperate attempt to save the lady. The Royal Hippogryph Knights are doing the same. That Blood Dragon Vampire Lord may pay with his snipe, with his life. He is getting danger low, 2,500 hit points, and that missile fire is continuing to pour in. Blood Knights are looking very beat up at the moment, as is the Die Pack, Crypt Ghouls and Zombies, all in this central formation. Bretonnians though need to continue to cycle charge. As you can see, in long engagements, the Ground Knights will suffer up against a lot of these troops. We are going to be seeing a summon in the back line to try and terrify off these Men-at-Arms. It looks like it has done just the trick. They're going to be running for their lives, but they've got to run through a load of rotten flesh now, which will be nipping and kind of tearing at their own flesh, looking to gobble up that lovely flesh of the living. Ground Knights do charge in. Looks like they're going to be running over some zombies rather successfully, as well as those Crypt Ghouls. The Blood Dragon does pop his Helm of Discord, but he has kind of fallen back a little bit too far away from the main engagement. Now he comes in, it shall be affecting those Grail Guardians and Men-at-Arms. The Men-at-Arms really do not enjoy this fight right now. Felix is running for his life, but he should be able to come back once he remembers his friend is Gotrek, and if he flees, he'll probably get a big fat axe to the face. Royal Hippogryph Knights are being distracted by some Felbats, but at least they're finally getting them off the field and beat those guys back while saving the Peasant Bowmen, which could be a saving grace, as these guys have a decent amount of ammunition left to try to finish off the rather slow units left on the Vampire Camp roster. We do have the Blood Knights, Dragon Vampire Lord and the Devils, but they can simply be bogged down by Grail Knights and Grail Guardians. And it looks like the Devils tempted to come over here and finish off these Peasant Bowmen, but are distracted by the Grail Knights and decide, you know what, we're going to come over and feast on some weaker foes who are less protected. Blood Knights try to push back onto the Peasant Bowman line, but the Royal Hippogryph Knights, ever vigil of the poor lower class, are going to be charging in a desperate attempt to save them, but also steal their glory, of course. These are Knights after all. Looks like they are wavering, only 3 models do remain. Grail Knights come charging with a thunderous charge into the flanks of those Blood Knights, looking to finish them off, but the Royal Hippogryph Knights, 21 kills, are forced off, down to half their models at the moment. There's a Schlosshafen have been finished now by those peasants, getting a bit of vengeance for the harass that they've been receiving throughout the course of the battle. Few more Bretonnian units which can come back. Likewise, there is still that unit of Graveguard in the distance, kept in tactical reserve here. Direwolf Pack doing a decent job, finish off some peasant mobs and Men-at-Arms, but they are now crumbling. Felix has returned to the fray, which could be huge. If he can rally alongside the Grail Knights and the Royal Hippogryph Knights, they can do a number on this Blood Dragon Vampire Lord, who is getting danger low health-wise. And the Blood Knights themselves, 120 kills. Good micro for the most part as well by the Vampire Camp player, giving these guys with some pretty key engagements, but now they're getting dragged down by peasant mobs, not where any proud vampire would like to be. More fire pressure is coming in on the Blood Dragon Vampirlord, who's been pinned in place by the Ground Knight. Another beautiful Helm of Discord coming down. But the Royal Hippogryph Knights charge in. They care not for your petty tricks and Helms of Discord. They're going to charge in here and get the business done. Saying that, these Ground Knights, who were full health not too long ago, again, absolutely abused at this moment. 22 models left there, 21 now, going down rather quickly. But the Blood Dragon Vampirlord itself down to just 570 HP. Not looking good for him, as Felix is starting to deal the damage to this Necromancer, wants to pull down that corpse cart as quickly as possible. Royal Hippogryph Knights down to 2 models do manage to pretty much slaughter the Blood Knights, who are crumbling into dust, but likewise they are going to be fleeing for their lives, as well as the Ground Knights. And balance power is very heavily against the Bretonnian forces. Now a few more units do wait in the trees who could come back. Peasant Bowman trying to finish off that Blood Dragon Vampirlord, but it's so tough. 411 HP, but with beautiful dodging and micro, the Vampire Camp player has somehow been able to keep him alive. Phoenix going toe-to-toe with some of the Blood Knights. He'll be very well equipped to deal with Crypt Ghouls and Zombies. And then it looks like the Ground Knights charging in to try to finish off the Dire Pack for good. Much better idea to charge them than get charged by them. So I like that pick there by Console. A big fat breath attack does come down on the Peasant Bowman. Maybe enough to break them, roasting a lot of those poor troops. In fact, it shatters them. That is huge coming in from the Vampire Camp forces, because now their mobility is gone. If they were alive, they could continue to shoot into that Necromancer, as well as all these other units with absolute impunity, including the Graveguard. Royal Hippogryph Knights are chasing that Blood Dragon Vampirelord. This is for our fallen comrades, they scream. Lances lowered, and down the mighty beast does fall. The flying tanks certainly get the job done when it comes to taking down enemy characters. Felix getting very low here, but he's going to have the support of the Royal Hippogryph Knights, hopefully, although their morale is pretty low at this point. And the men-at-arms are rallying. They come back down from the hills and the trees where they were hiding, as they can feel victory is slowly coming into their grasp. But the Vampire Count's certainly not out of it yet, despite losing their leader and getting that big penalty to their leadership. Some of the Graveguard are going relatively strong here. Royal Hippogryph Knights trying to cycle charge where possible and support Felix, likewise with the Ground Knights. This is certainly what you should be doing if you are the Bretonnians. Just keep cycling, keep trying to finish off. I'd maybe take the Royal Hippogryph Knights and focus fire down that Necromancer, because it needs to go. If the Necromancer falls, Felix could probably carry, but if this Necromancer lurking, helping out all the nearby troops, it's going to be a big trouble. Men-at-arms charging into the Crypt Ghouls. They're going to be taking quite a lot of damage. Crypt Ghouls up to 51 kills at the moment, but running rather low on HP, minus 30 leadership as well. They're crumbling fast, but likewise the morale of the men-at-arms and peasants is falling. Felix has got himself toe-to-toe with that pesky Necromancer, wielding his mighty sword. He's doing some massive damage, and in comes the Royal Hippogryph Knights. It looks like that Necromancer may have been off more than he can chew. He is crumbling, but slowly pulling back, as a lot of the Bretonnian peasants do start to run for their lives. Likewise, the Ground Knights actually flee before the peasants and men-at-arms. That is not a good message to send to the rest of your troops, particularly the men-at-arms who look up to the Knights so much. Men-at-arms have been remembered from the trees, likewise the peasant mobs who do flood once again from the trees to surround this core of Vampire Camp's force. And it looks like they may well fall. Royal Hippogryph Knights up to 32 kills, only 2 models left on them, but they still pack a huge punch. Necromancer getting very low, minus 17 leadership, minus 23 leadership. You'd think victory is ripe for the taking for Bretonnia, but we have forgotten one very key thing, which I'm sure some of the eagle-eyed of you have remembered. Dun dun dun. The tactical Graveguard, 90 Graveguard, vibing in the back here, eating some popcorn, seeing how the balance of power is going to ebb and flow and in what direction, and it still is in favour of the Vampire Camp player. Obviously, not forgotten these guys, just leave them there as a tactical reminder to himself that, I'm going to keep these guys into late game, give the Bretonnians a chance, because that Necromancer isn't feeling too good, as the Royal Hippogryph Knights once again charge in, telling him to dust. Graveguard attempt to rally to the cause, but they themselves are starting to crumble, and Felix is looking strong now. Can Felix break down 90 Graveguard, I should say? That's a tough call, and the Royal Hippogryph Knights down to 1 model have shattered. The shame of this man leaving his forces in the bad situation. If he was here, he could probably actually finish off that Necromancer. 900 health, cycle charge him down. But because he's been allowed to live, now these Graveguard, of course, are going to get buffed up by him. If you have a little look over here, they do get healed by the Master of the Dead, which is counteracting the crumbling a little bit, but it's going to be super important for this 90 sack of Graveguard, who is now getting healed up. Going to be even more of a menace for Felix to deal with, but despite all this, balance power is certainly not out of the favour of Bretonnia. It looks like Felix has managed to rustle up a small core of men-at-arms, 51 in fact. But that is all. It's 1 unit and 1 character versus 1 unit and 1 character. The ultimate showdown. Well, plus some Graveguard, but their vampire counts, they're evil. They've got to cheat where possible. And Felix charges in, slicing and dicing his way through. Now, Felix is amazing at killing Graveguard. He's anti-infantry. If he's brought his sword as well, that plus 14 melee attack turns him into an absolute world beater. But this is a lot of undeadly foes surrounding him. However, with Gotrek at his side, he has faced far worse enemies. Perhaps that does bode well for him, but there is no Gotrek in sight. He's trying to force his way through onto Necromancer, which I think is a good idea, but all the while he does this, he's going to be getting hacked and cleaved apart by the Graveguard. If we take an overarching view of the battlefield, his allies do betray him. Men-at-arms running, screaming for their lives, as Felix does start to go down. He is but a manlin, and his leadership is not that strong. Necromancer does start to crumble, but minus 134 leadership. Felix breaks, and a valiant defeat for the forces of Bretonnia. Amazing game to these two guys, came right down to the wire, and actually forgetting that unit of Graveguard came in a little bit clutch in the end for that tactical reserve. They were well rested and well suited to dealing with what the Bretonians had left on the field. Massive shout out to Consul Rome and End Fury, two true champs. Always good to have these guys on the channel, particularly Consul Rome, who's been around, I think, since we had before 100 subscribers or something insane. A long-term supporter and friend of the channel. Super cool dude. And I also like it as well when people send in defeats, because it does mix up a little bit. Particularly though when they bring some cool units which perform rather well. Those Royal Hippogryph Knights with flesh to stone on them, plus 60 armor, favoured the Fae. They were just these flying tanks of destruction floating around, beating the snot out of that Blood Dragon Vampire Lord. Even with the Helm of Discord, I love to see it. 3,000 damage value on these bad boys, 10k damage dealt. Real monsters, and I'd argue MVPs as well for Bretonnia. Before we get to the rest of the damage dealt and damage value on all the other units, hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, feel free to leave a big old fat thumbs up button, as well as subscribing for more Total War Warhammer content. And let me know what you enjoyed about the battle down below. What was your favourite unit? What was your favourite moment in the battle? And the heroic charge of the Hippogryph Knights coming in and slaying the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord? Or was those peasants getting roasted by some zombie dragon breath attacks? Let me know down below. Also, in the description, there is links to Patreon where you can support the channel, but also links to my Discord. If you join my Discord, you can submit replays. This is how Consul got his replay on the channel today. You can get involved in all kind of events that I host. You can chill out with a load of cool guys, practice your skills, learn the game, as well as see a load of pictures of ducks, because of course we are a rubber duck of war. Apart from that now, for the rest of the build, the Grail Knights performed relatively solid. 1,000 damage value here. The other one, 1,300. Getting some pretty solid kills, but again, there's a lot of chaff which comes with the vampire count, so all that chaff does weigh into a lot of these kills. Knights of the Lion-Hearted performed not great. 734 damage values, not too shabby, but for such an expensive unit, of course, it is a big drop in quality for them. I loved the play with the Peasant Bowmen with fire arrows. Really good targeting by them. You can see across the board. Oh, that's some disgusting damage value. 1,650, 1,062, 1,567. Maybe they actually take the top spot for MVPs just because of the amount of money they managed to make back. The Holy Wardens riding dirty alongside the mighty Felix. 89 kills, not too shabby, but they got a little over-eager, which of course, there are some frenzied pilgrims, so charging in is what you expect from them. Only 557 damage value, mainly slaughtering zombies before getting dismembered by the Graveguard. Men-at-arms did okay across the board, just big kills but not much damage value. They did their job, killing zombies and holding back the enemy formation. Felix did okay, 972 damage value, but wasn't necessarily supported with a lot of the bigger troops in the key moments, so he kind of faltered there. But the Fey Enchantress, 2,010 damage value. Real nice play by her, but it is proven in this battle she can physically be sniped. It is still very hard and she still will get a disgusting amount of value, but it is possible. End Fury coming in with the bad to the bones heavy metal Blood Dragon Vampire Lord. 2,281 damage value, despite being outmatched in the air. Performed really well, doing some good damage to those flying Royal Hippogryph Knights, but also those breath attacks were rather tasty. Necromancer, not really there for the damage value, but managed to get 200 nonetheless, but a nice support character. Zombies across the board. One unit somehow getting 14 kills, which I'm sure they're going to go home and tell their wives and family about. Actually, they completely died, so I guess next time they get resurrected, they'll be patting themselves on the back. Criticals, 1,235 damage value. Very nice stuff by them. I quite like them being mixed in here. And across the board, the Graveguard, mixed bag. One unit doing rather well, the other faring slightly poorly. Blood Knights, 135 kills, 2,682 damage value. Lovely micromanagement by End Fury, getting those guys into the thick of it and back out again before they took too much damage. Fellbats as well, a nice little harass tool. Die pack, 1,417 damage value, as well at the Devil's Schusswaffen, 1,115. Both units performing rather well. Poor Claw of Nagash, though, just got focus fired down by the Peasant Bowman early on. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed that one. Until next time, peace, peace. And as always, stay awesome.